Hi, and welcome to Studio SN. My name is Sara Naumann, and today I'm really excited to be a guest blogger over at PaperArtsy. And today we're going to be playing with our Eclectica stamps and give our Grunge Paste a little bit of custom color with pigment ink refills. So when you get done watching today's show, I hope you get a chance to pop on by the PaperArtsy website. They're over at paperartsy.co.uk. And while you're there, I'm sure you will find all kinds of fabulous educational tutorials, resources, and of course, their fantastic stamping supplies. In the meantime, enjoy the show. My card has a lot of texture on it, and this is in part due to the grunge paste that you see here on the background and then in this middle section here too, but also the washi tape and of course the stamping. And then I've also added two-dimensional pieces on here, this flower and this little bit of ribbon, which really help to add to the overall sense of texture. Now the grunge paste that you see back here and then on the washi tape portion has been tinted with pigment ink refill. Really easy way to get a totally customized color. So why don't we start with this washi tape central piece right here, and then we can kind of work our way backwards. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring in a piece of white cardstock and my washi tapes. And I've got three washi tapes. I have a gold metallic stripe, I have this black and white dot, and I have this black with very faint little X's on it. And I'm going to start applying my washi tape right onto my cardstock to create that center piece. Now, if you've never worked with washi tape before, it's a lot of fun, and it's very easy to use also. It's a nice way to get some instant texture on your card. And you can see as I'm just pulling this off the roll, I can go ahead and just tear off a little bit of this and then just place it right onto my cardstock. Now I've got a little bit on either end. That's okay. It's actually going to kind of tack down my cardstock as I continue building my pattern. So the next one I want is the gold metallic stripe. And I think when I pull this off, you can see that it is transparent. And that's the cool thing about washi tape, is that it is transparent. It also means that whatever paper I put this onto will show through a little bit. So when you're putting washi tape down onto paper, always keep that in mind. I like to use a white cardstock or a cream or off-white cardstock so that it keeps that pattern really nice and bright. Here is my black with the X's, and I'm going to pop this down. Now you'll notice as I'm putting these down that I'm leaving a little bit of white space in between each one of those strips. And that's for two reasons. First, because it's nice to leave a visual space between each one of the patterns. They don't start competing for your attention. And also because, perhaps selfishly, I don't want to try and nest them all up one into the other. I think I would end up with it kind of going off to the side a little bit. So a little bit of my own personal issue with that too, with lining things up. So now I would continue on my pattern the rest of the way, and you can either trim off the edges of the washi tape with regular scissors, or you can just wrap them around like this. So I would continue doing the rest of my piece, and then I will have something that looks like this in whatever pattern configuration you want. Then I can start stamping on here. And the stamp set that I'm working with is from the Eclectica line. This is ESN 09. And the two stamps that I want to use for the background are these two right here. Now I like using them together because I think they're a little bit an unexpected partnership. So I have this dot pattern, which is a traditional polka dot. All of the circles are filled in. It's a little bit more formal, if you will. This over here is also a dotted design, but it's got these nice open, really irregular kind of splotches. And actually this was a spatter design that I made, and then that has been turned into a stamp design. So you've got something much more organic and something a little bit more planned, if you will. So the two are really nice opposites, but they also complement each other really well. So I've put both of them together on one flexi block. So I'm going to stamp them as one unit. So I have them together on here. Then I can mix up my grunge paste because that's what I'm going to be stamping with. So I'm going to scoot these two over and show you what I've used. Now the grunge paste, when I pull off this lid, you'll see the grunge paste is a sort of a putty color. There's not a real definite color to it except like an off-white. So I'm going to tint this with a little bit of pigment ink re-inker. And what I'm using is Colorbox Crafters re-inker, and this is in Aruba. So basically, if you're buying the ink pad, you would then get the re-inker to kind of rejuvenate your ink pad when it starts to go dry. But you can also use the refill inks on their own. So I'm going to go ahead and get this mixed up on my little palette here. I'm going to use a palette knife to scoop out some of my grunge paste. You can see I like it quite a lot. Don't have very much left. So I'm going to get out just a little bit on here with my palette knife. Be sure and put on the lid right away so that that doesn't dry out. And then I'm going to add my re-inker. You can add a very little amount. In fact, I'm just going to add 1 drop. Let me get this out. 1 drop of this. There we go. A little bit more than I expected, but I had a hard time getting it out of the bottle. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and mix this up, and you can see how far 1 little drop will take you. Now you can always add more, of course, if you want to, but I like to start with a little bit and then adjust from there. Okay, look at the vibrancy of that, and that was Aruba color, and that's the Pigment-Ink re-inker. So look at how beautiful and vibrant that color is. What I love about the grunge paste is that it gives the texture and the consistency that you want for a little bit of dimension, but it doesn't dilute the color of whatever you're mixing it with. So if you look at the color, even just the color of the ink pad compared to the color on here, it's really, really true. Okay, so I've got this all pretty much mixed and blended, working on my palette knife, and then what I'm going to do is get a little bit of this on my palette knife, not a big gloppy bunch of it, but just a little bit of it, and I'm going to use a tapping motion to get this onto my stamps. Now you may be thinking, are you ruining your stamps? The answer is no. If you wash your stamps pretty much straight away, sometimes I use an old toothbrush if I have any grunge paste, you know, in any of the little innies in here. But I've used grunge paste and paint with these PaperArtsy stamps and no problem. They clean up pretty easily, but you do need to do it fairly quickly. Don't let them sit for a while. Okay, so I've got my grunge paste on here, and then I'm just going to turn this over and stamp. There we go. And lift. And look, I've got texture, I've got dimension, so cool. And then all I need to do is just carry on adding more, topping it up here, and then go ahead and turn it around maybe and get a different pattern going on down here. Now, really cool, very fast, very easy. Now the other thing I did with this piece before I put it onto my card is I added more of this grunge paste mixture along the edges using the palette knife. And I was a little bit more heavy-handed with this, so you can do that as well. Kind of scuffle it off like this, and I just went around all 4 sides. And then once you have all 4 sides grunge pasty painted, then you can go ahead and let this dry. It won't take very long to dry, and I usually just pop it up on top of my grunge paste container, actually, and then it will dry without being stuck to my craft sheet. So now I still have some of this left on my palette, so I'm going to continue on with the background of my card. So that great big white piece that I had there, I'm going to go ahead and get this all nice and stamped for the background. So once again, just tapping this on and then stamping right on here. And this will give you a different effect, of course, on the white than on the slick surface of the washi tape. And then just continue on like so. Get some of that color on there. And then I'm just, you know, kind of turning this as I go. You can stamp off the sides. You can do a second generation print. So without doing more of the grunge paste on there, go ahead and add some up in the corner. You can overlap. And I didn't think when I was stamping this that I was going to fill the center. So you could kind of skip the center area and just keep your concentration around the sides on there. But you can see how fun that texture print is. And if you look at it closely, I think especially up here, you can really see that it is dimensional. It's so cool. So let me bring back in my original card. I'm going to scoot this out of the way. We can take a look at the card itself. So you can see I've got my textured background on here. I can feel this. It's nice and bumpy. And then I've got this piece with the matting around here. I matted this onto black and white cardstock because I thought that it really just kept the overall design of the card very simple and allowed that teal to pop and the texture of this to also be more of a central star, if you will. This sentiment, all life is an experiment. The more experiments you make, the better, is from Ralph Waldo Emerson. And this has been stamped and heat embossed with black. So I have a little bit of dimension with this as well. 2 silk flowers layered together and then a little bit of teal ribbon up here too. One thing I wanted to point out, just in terms of the layout of the card, you'll notice that I've got a lot of very strong lines on here. So I have a very strong horizontal line going across here, very strong vertical lines with the washi tape, and then also, of course, with this background piece here too. So what I really think is nice is how the texture of that grunge paste and the circular images on that stamp set have really softened those lines so it doesn't look quite so boxy or quite so linear. I think it really helps to create a nice balance between the two. And of course the circle of the flower and then this added little bit of ribbon also add a little bit of softness to it as well. I really hope you enjoyed today's show and looking at how you can create texture and custom color with grunge paste and Eclectica stamps. A big thank you to the folks at PaperArtsy for inviting me to be part of their blog today. Thank you guys, I appreciate it. For more inspiration and to check out the Eclectica stamps and other amazing PaperArtsy supplies, be sure and stop by their website at paperartsy.co.uk. Of course, you know you can always stop by my place at saranaumann.com. And while you're there, I'd love if you signed up for my weekly email newsletter. Thank you again for joining me on Studio SN, and I will see you again next time.